we're going to build the teeth and gums, and we're going to use something called instances to do that. Now before we start, I want to take a look at some teeth and gums that have already been constructed. And so here, let's go to the front view, and I'm going to go into face mode and select all the faces on the left here and delete those so that we can take a look at the teeth and gums. These are instances, and instances are copies. An instance is a copy of a mesh object that, when that original mesh object is altered in some fashion, that the instanted copy changes to reflect that change. So for example, I select this one tooth and I'll go into vertex mode and select a number of these vertexes, and you can see immediately that all the teeth have the same vertexes highlighted. If I move that, you can see that in fact, again, all the teeth reflect that change. So this is also true of the gums. So for example, if I go into face mode with the gums here and I move that, in fact you can see that the gum there on the top is showing the change that happened in the gum below. So I'm going to go back to object mode, and we're going to delete all these. And we're going to start from scratch to build the teeth and gums. So we want to use the grid, and we can see with the heavy dark lines here, this in fact is the global center of Maya, the Maya space. And I want to make a pipe, which is this button. And I click on that. I'm going to press X so that that is exactly centered, and I drag this down just a little bit. Now it's obviously way too large, but it's very simple to scale that whole thing down thusly. And if I look from the top view, press F to frame that, I know that I don't need the back faces of this object for the gum, so I go into face mode, and I'm going to select just those faces and delete those. And I want to also get rid of the faces here on the bottom. So, oops. Make sure I don't get rid of anything that I want to keep. And sometimes it's wise to go into wireframe mode and make sure that you're not doing something unfortunate. So if I do a smooth preview, you can see, well, that approximates a look of the gums pretty well. So what I want to do now is make a first tooth right in this area. So I'm going to go into top view, and this will make, using the create polygon tool, much easier. Now if I take a look at that in perspective view, you can see that its local orientation is at the global center of Maya space. So now I want to go from just a simple plane into what you might think of as an actual tooth. And that's just as simple as hitting the extrude button, extrude that down, now we have much more of a tooth shape. And you can see that its local orientation should be at the global center. And it's not quite because of the extrusion that I just did with that face. A trick is to hold D. So D, the D key, makes the allows us to change where the local orientation is. So I hold D, then I hold X, and I middle click and drag. So now the local orientation is exactly at our global center. What this is going to allow us to do is to use this pivot point, and to, if I can demonstrate this by using the rotate tool, and we can see how this is rotating right along, keeping consistent with the edge of the gum mesh, what is going to be the gum mesh. So what I'm going to do is go to Edit, Duplicate Special, dialog box, and this is a copy that, let me reset the settings. So here I would just make a copy, and those would be separate meshes, one separate from each other. Well, that's not really what I want to do. What I want is an instance so that I can alter one tooth, and those changes, as we've discussed recently, will be updated to the other copies. So I click on the radio button for instance, and I already did the math, so I know that if I rotate 9 copies in Y, X, Y, Z, and here's rotation. So you see these fields are translations at the top, then the 3 fields across, X, Y, Z for rotate, and scale at the bottom, X, Y, Z. So I want to rotate in Y. Y would be around, obviously, this axis, the Y axis. And I know that what I want is minus 18 degrees for each copy. And I click on Duplicate Special. And now what we have are all the teeth for the bottom row of teeth.